Hey everybody, Jacob Godar here. Are you wanting your business to get better? Are you struggling with making money? Are you struggling with keeping employees? Are you struggling with your marketing efforts? I know all of us go through these things at times, and there's some simple information that I'm going to give you in this video. If any of those issues pertain to you, they could make a massive difference. This is the kind of stuff we talk about in GROW Comm all the time. It's the things we preach, it's the things we practice, and this is something that I'm super lucky from a really early time my original mentor kind of shared with me. Now, I didn't know how far this would carry into the future with what I do. Now, a lot of times we see an issue and we don't know why it's happening. We are looking at our profit and loss and we're all, what is his name? Man, Keith Cunningham. He's an awesome guy that works with Tony Robbins, knows a lot about accounting. And he says, we all look at a profit and loss statement at the end of the year. And if it's in the black, we have a drink. Basically, if it's in the black or red, it just depends on it determines how many drinks we have. Meaning, if it's in the black, we think we did good. And if it's in the red, we think we did bad. So we have a lot of drinks to try to forget that we're not doing good, right? What I realized from a very early point through some of the things I was taught, and this was from an original mentor, and then more mentors kind of taught me this over time, was this is ultimately, you have to track stuff. You have to see which direction you're heading to determine where you're going. When you look at a profit and loss statement, this is just my example for this overarching conversation because we're going to be able to hit on a few different things. But you look at a profit and loss statement, that is talking about a whole time, an expansive time. It's not a day. It's telling you the story of a certain period of time, maybe a month, maybe a quarter, a year, however you want to look at it, depending on how well you're running your business. You know, if you're looking at it once a year, probably not the best. If you're looking at it every quarter, better. If you're looking at it monthly, better. If you're looking at it weekly and paying attention to the movements you're making, better. Because the more you track something, the better it gets. So this secret started in my business at an early age, and the way it started with tracking, what you measure will improve. Here's the original book. See this? When you hear the story of Jimmy Fulgenetti, this is the leather-bound book he gave me when I started the business. This is what he brought from California. I don't know if I put this here. Oh, I'll be damned. Under this, there's a Fulgenetti detailing by appointment. He was a businessman. He did all kinds of stuff in his retirement. But this was an old leather ledger book. And I just really realized this because it'd been so long, but I was given this note to do. And it says envelopes marked by month. He was talking about keeping expenses. This is all really rudimentary to me now because now we're using so much digital stuff. But back in the day, everything was paper. You got to keep in mind, this guy was a bookie back in the day. He had to keep all those paper books so nobody could see anything. Set up ledger for income recordings, keep by day, week, monthly, and then develop a follow-up routine, and then keep all equipment. He was giving me these little things that we should be doing, these little things that we should be tracking. But now, something else he did, that was just some of the early to-dos. He lined out with that's Jimmy's handwriting right here, this black writing. My handwriting would never be that nice looking, which his isn't the most nice looking, but it's 100 times nicer looking than mine. What I didn't know that he was teaching me early on, it says day, date, name, location, charges, time, on job, right? So 8:46 to 10:10. I was tracking these jobs, all the dates. This day I did 3 jobs. Here's the names, here's the addresses, here's the charges, and here is the times. And then notes, super wet, extra work, whatever. I was taught very early to track things. When I had my first business coach, we would talk about 90-day planning. Now 90-day planning and foundational for planning over all the sections of our life, that's something we really hit on GROW Comm. I'm not trying to talk about GROW Comm too much, but even more now, that's a big part of my life. So it trickled and it went from the very rudimentary to then it got more in depth. We talk about 90-day planning. And then I look back, and when I look back at my sheets where we talk about creating budgets and goals, my Excel sheet for creating goals goes all the way back to 2015. We started the business in 2014. So it's cool to see these little pieces. A big part of my success was mentorship and smart people being around me, making small suggestions of the things I should be doing. And then me taking action and listening. And by no means am I there. I got a long way to go. And I'm going to keep taking these little nuggets, the right mindset. If you're watching this video wanting what we talked about, and we're going to get into that more of how we can apply this to more things than just profit and loss, but the right mindset is to spend a lot of time searching and hunting for the golden nuggets. This was a golden nugget to me. It made me financially savvy in my company. So this went further and further and further into my company, where we tracked times, we tracked numbers, we tracked all of the stuff so we could measure it and we could see how we're doing in our company. So I want to talk about how this applies to everything though, because we're just talking about money as a metric. This truly applies to everything in your business. So in your business, I talk about there's 3 big pillars, right? There's marketing, there's sales, and there's production. With no marketing, there will be no sales. With no sales, there will be no production. And it's something that you have to put that all together to make this thing roll forward. Well, we've talked about the production and being profitable on it a little bit, but when we're talking about those things, the true metrics of how do you track, test, and measure making money. In a job like ours, landscape industry, really it's anything, but if you were specifically talking about a landscape company that does maintenance and maybe mows lawns like us, that's tracking all of your times. That's why I got into service autopilot at a very early time, was so I could have guys clocking in and out and it would automatically show a job costing thing, or at least it would track their total time and the total revenue driven off of the day, so then we could do reports on it. So that's one, overall job costing. And then project costing, which is much more detailed, but in the beginning, because we all do this, I made it much harder than it really was. I made these extensive sheets and Excel sheets to try to cost stuff when really it was totally irrelevant. What we needed to do was find out if there was a material variance and find out if there was an hour variance. So if you estimate a job to have 20 hours on it, and if the team does it in 18, good, thumbs up. If the team does it in 21, not so great. And then on the other side of that, if the material comes in under budget, if you estimated $500 in materials and it came in at $450, awesome. A little sliver extra profit, that's gonna guard your ass, because you can't feel bad. You don't want to return that money, because that's going to guard you on all the times where it doesn't go that way. It's $500 in cost and you spend $800 or $8,000. And this will happen to you in your company. You're going to have huge losses. I've had labor losses of $40,000, like we all, and you're going to listen to that and be like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. I would never let that happen. You run a business long enough, you're going to compile your mistakes. They're going to grow. Your challenges and your mistakes should grow over time in relation to what you're doing. Those things are going to happen. So some kind of costing, just like what I did here in that sheet on that piece of paper. That was originally input into an Excel sheet. I'd run my numbers, and I just really realized and started to enjoy the tracking of things. And tracking is how you better everything. So job costing, project costing, that is that area. And I want to throw in a bonus that is clear as day in the fitness world, because I wasn't even going to talk fitness. It was going to be all business. But if you're wanting to lose weight, it's basically like saying spend less than you earn to make a profit. It is eat less calories than you burn to lose weight, right? How would you know if you're headed in the right direction if you don't measure it? Both of those things, profit, weight loss, the costing, and knowing that we're hitting our projected numbers is what is guiding us through things. Like you heard me hit about a profit and loss early in this story. Profit and loss is the whole story after it's all happened. I've heard some people call it the autopsy. The job costing through is making sure you're going in the right direction. So ideally, when you hit and look at profit and loss at the end of the year, a quarter, month, day, whatever, that it all looks good and it shakes out to you having a profit. Now let's talk about some other areas though in your business where this could have a lot of major effect. It will really allow you to have more success in your business. One's employment. There's a lot of things that happen with employees that if you're not tracking it and you're not watching it, how are you going to know you're moving in the right direction? Everybody's always talking about, I can't keep good employees, I lose my employees, I do this, I pay them so much money. Well, if your culture is dog shit and you're a horrible person to work for, I'm not going to say any names, but recently, or a little while ago, I guess, I spoke with an owner where all he did was, to me, bashed his employees and then said how just crazy, you can't keep anybody. Well, if you talk shit about your employees, whether you're doing it to their face or to me off to the side, I feel like there's a karmic reaction in the world that is happening. So if I'm talking shit, those people are probably not going to be as good for me, right? Even beyond that, Having that culture is me being a good leader, me bringing energy to the team, me making sure that the culture is right through cool things, appreciation things. You know, a lot of people will say money is oh, you get paid so much money and they still quit. But yeah, did you ever celebrate wins? Did you ever celebrate them as a person? Did you care about their goals to make sure they were heading forward in the right direction and that you were working together to accomplish the company goals and accomplish their goals, right? There's a lot that goes into this. So how do we test and measure that culture or the tribe and how the tribe's hanging in there, the team, whatever you want to call it? For me, there's a couple different things. I like seeing something in the company that this is something we started doing. I like seeing a peer-to-peer review, basically an anonymous scorecard every employee gives out for every other employee. So me, I would be able to say for the 20 other employees, I would rate them 1 through 5, or 0 through 5. 0 meaning they should leave, 5 meaning they're a rock star and they should move on. In the middle means they're doing okay. So here's a moving metric of what the team thinks about the team. This is one metric that helps contribute to culture. Another thing is anonymous questionnaires to the team, asking them about the job, what could be improved, what are the complaints, what are the problems, giving people an outlet. So we're going to test and measure these things, and then we're going to do everything we can do to try to make them better. Now, as you have more money, you can do more stuff. We're going and spending $1,000 or $1,100 going paintballing. We do $1,000 giveaways at Christmas for trips. We do a bunch of little fun stuff and we spend a bunch of money on it. But even when you don't have money, there are things you can do to bring excitement to your company. If you don't have the money to do that, have cookouts, have monthly cookouts, have bi-weekly cookouts, celebrate wins, talk to your team about, hey man, you got a compliment, whatever the case may be, celebrate your people. Celebration is ultimately something that will push the team. So you got way more than you asked for in this video because we're not just talking about how to measure it, we're talking about how to correct some of the stuff too. Finally, we're going to talk about marketing. This was a hot topic for me to bring up to you. Oh yeah, I got the check.
Thanks.
Yep. And that is watching your marketing, how to make that better, source reports. You might be asking yourself, what is a source report? Well, we've tested and measured everything else. So we need to test and measure when someone rings the phone and you pick up. One of the most important questions you will ask this person. If you don't ask this person this, you're fucking up. So if you watch this video this far and you aren't doing this, leave it in the comments. I fucked up. It's not bad. It's more going to be funny if I get to see some of those, and it'll be a laugh you get to do with yourself. Shit, man, why wasn't I thinking of that? But one of the most important questions we ask this person on the phone is, how did you hear about us? That is a very key source of information for your company. If they say website, if they say door hanger, if they say whatever it is they say, if you're entering this in your system or an Excel sheet to track, hey, we got this many from this, we got this many from this, we got this many from this, and we closed this percent. Like, I wouldn't really want to create the spreadsheet, but in Service Autopilot, we can enter those in each time we get a new lead, and it spits out a report. So we know that on website, we close 40% of those, and on client referrals, we close 60% of those, and on door hangers, we close 80% of those. Like, we know, and then we know Facebook, maybe we close 20%, and then this thing over here, it's no percent. Like, so we know what's working, so now we can better our marketing and we can move forward in the future. Everyone wants to know, what's the silver bullet in marketing? The silver bullet in marketing is testing and measuring, seeing what works, applying more fuel to the things that work, pulling back as things change and markets change, and always testing, tweaking, and measuring. But without the information coming in, you cannot measure it. Without measuring it, you cannot make it better. You are running into the future with no direction, hoping that there will be some sort of good results. Improper planning leads to poor results. So let's plan for our success. Let's test and measure. Let's grow our companies. Talk to you soon.